In just a few weeks, I won't be standing here giving you the sermon. Carla Williams will, lay speaker of church. Don't worry, I'll be back. I'm just stepping out for Memorial Day weekend to go help my parents move from their home of 30 years out to Western New York to be closer to that darn grandkid. As the date creeps closer, my mom has called a couple times just to make sure, really sure, just to make really sure that our plans are on track and everything is going to work out. You're definitely coming up on Friday, right? And you'll get the U-Haul? Because you call your brother. I'm not sure I trust anybody else to help move furniture down the stairs. Everything is packed up by the beds, but they need to go in last because they need to come out first so we have somewhere to sleep when we get there. I know. I know, Mom. I know, Mom. Everything is under control. Yes, I ordered the mattress protectors. If there's anything else we need, I can walk down to the hardware store and buy it. I got this, Mom. I got this. It seems like my family is in that inevitable moment of transition, that quickly approaching precipice when the next generation begins to take more responsibility for the whole family. And we're still waiting with some trepidation to see if we can fly this plane or if it's going to crash and burn. With the birth of my niece, my brother's family has become the center of the universe. And all the rest of us are being sucked into orbit around Rochester. And as our planets realign, we find new patterns, new interactions and relationships among one another. My mom will always be my mom. But these long-held assumptions about who is the caregiver are starting to adjust, and will continue to adjust as the two of us grow older together. Reminds me of the lyrics from a new song by the musician Ben Rector. You wrecked my world in a beautiful way. I kind of thought that I would always stay the same, but I once heard healthy things grow, and growing things change. I think he's talking about becoming a parent, but it seems like he could really be singing those lyrics about any significant relationship. As I reflect on these changing dynamics in our family, it actually puts me in mind of our gospel passage from last week, a part of it that we didn't really pay much attention to and skipped over. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and go wherever you wish. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not want to go. Of course, my parents' impending move is entirely voluntary. This is what they want to do. They're going where they wish to go. But they no longer have the same stamina, the same freedom that came in their youth to fasten a belt around themselves and go wherever they wish. They need help, and I'm happy to give it. Would that all our elders have the care and support that they need to enjoy their golden years in comfort and with agency. But none of this is new. As one biblical scholar put it in 1997 regarding the fluidity of family structures in ancient Israel, quote, families are in constant flux as members are born, grow to maturity, and die. And the quality and character of family life are always changing in dynamic relation to the internal and external factors that affect the way the family encompasses the interlocking life courses of its constituent members. This is true of families everywhere and throughout history. They are all different, yet family is ubiquitous in all human societies. It is a fundamental collective. End quote. This Mother's Day, I can virtually guarantee you that every pastor who is preaching this morning is doing the delicate dance of attempting to recognize the importance of mothers, and hopefully their own mothers. Hi, Mom. Even as we know that there are persons in the audience who have lost a mother, or who didn't have a good relationship with their mother, or who may never have known their mother in the first place. I find some hope in this scholarly recognition that even though the core concept and importance of family is ubiquitous throughout history, all these families, they're never quite the same. All families are different, and hopefully we all eventually find the family that we need, and the mothers that will care for us in that special way. And for many, that is one of the core functions of the church. We're a found family, a chosen family, in which we can offer mutual care and support for one another, each person, couple, or family within us finding new ways to interact and dance through the world together. Now, as an aside, I suspect that this is one of the reasons that pastoral transitions are always so hard. It isn't just a matter of grief for the beloved pastor who is departing. And it isn't just a question about the qualifications and gifts of the incoming preacher. What emerges instead is a deep and deeply understandable insecurity about how things are going to change. By that, I don't mean the ultimately inconsequential particularities of office hours, programming, or what color the parents are, but the deeper questions. How is this new person going to fit into our spiritual family? How is the differentness of their presence and personality going to disrupt the relational dynamics in our community? Will they play the same role or function as our last pastor? Or do they fit in a slightly different way? Because I'll tell you, the pastor isn't always the parent in the sanctuary, especially if they are younger or otherwise new to the vocation. And of course, I say these things because many of our churches are precisely in a moment of pastoral transition. The other churches in our cooperative parish are experiencing this very tension as they say goodbye to pastors who have been a part of them for nearly a decade on one hand, and more than 2 decades on 2 other hands. And of course, we have our Catholic brethren who had recently lost a pope, literally Papa, and have now gained a new one. But I think Ben Rector is still right in this context too. Healthy things grow, and growing things change. The Bible actually has a fair amount to say about these sorts of intra-family transitions and also care for the elderly. That's where we get such passages as, "Children, obey your parents, and parents, do not provoke your children to wrath." To paraphrase what my teacher, Dan Nolan Fuel, once said about it, in an agrarian context where you will one day need to rely on your children to take care of you, it's best to stay on their good side. She actually might have put it a little more aggressively, but I'm censoring so as to not be smited in the pulpit. But if you think about it, these functions, these reflections on family dynamics and relationships of care provide some helpful context for other biblical, ethical imperatives, such as care for widows and orphans. Both of those figures, widows and orphans, they represent categories of persons who, for one reason or another, no longer have a family structure to rely upon for that care and support. And so it is the church that must step in as the family of God to incorporate these marginalized figures who have been cast out alone. It's our job to incorporate them into our family mutual care. And so it is that I finally come to our scriptures from this morning. I know you thought I forgot, but in this story from Acts, we are confronted by a profound picture that is entirely about care for widows. Care for one who doesn't have a family to call her own. I don't know if you caught that, but you see, it's a detail easily blown past if we're not paying acute attention to it. But Tabitha, called Dorcas, is not described in the context of the family. There's no partner mentioned. There's no children mentioned. Who is it that gathers around her? It says she was with the widows. She had devoted herself to good works and charity. She was trying to help out by making tunics, being of assistance. She and the other widows had been incorporated as disciples into the life of this community, even though they don't have an immediate family to rely on for support. And so I find it remarkable and instructive that in this moment of the early church, right here in Acts, when the widows who are alone, one of them is lost, and they wash her, and they put her upstairs in bed in repose, they send word to Peter, one of the most prominent figures of this early movement. And at the news of her illness and death, Peter immediately and without question or delay of any sort sets out to see her. All the other important things that need to be done suddenly lose their priority because the church's care for widows is not an ancillary thing. It is not a secondary matter. It does not come after the sanctuary is cleaned and all of the work of the church and the business of the church is taken care of. No, when the widows are in trouble, we drop everything to take care of them. It's at the heart of our mission as the children of God, as the family of God, in which no one is excluded and all are cared for. I think Peter's immediate recognition of the importance of this moment helps to highlight how significant the ethical imperative to take care of those marginalized outsiders who do not have other people to care for. That is the essence and heart of our gospel commission as the family of God and as the church. And honestly, personally, I feel a certain level of empathy with Peter in these early years, not just as a fellow shepherd of the flock, but as one of these persons who is in the midst of that generational transfer of responsibility. Jesus has risen and ascended, but in doing so, he has also cast a great deal of responsibility for the church, for this spiritual family, into the hands of Peter and the disciples, and now he's got to figure out how to hold that mantle. It's a heavy burden to be in charge of a family. And how does he exercise that responsibility here? How does he wield that newfound authority, but to go immediately to the edge, to the outside, to the places where people need him, in the care for those who have no family to rely on? That sounds like the gospel to me. So let us become and be a spiritual family that cares for those who have no home, who welcome and care for the marginalized and the outcasts, the widows and the orphans, not as a secondary priority, but as the heart of our mission and ministry, our call to support this family. Let us this Mother's Day become a church that mothers all those who seek care, to nourish, sustain, and provide for all of God's children.